Okay. Okay, so before we start this class, can you just give me a brief like summary of what you can someone give me a brief summary of what you did last week? I think I just four, so there's enough time. Can someone just give me a brief summary about what you did last week or on Tuesday, sorry.
All right, good morning. We did an introductory to React, ES6, and single page application, and how React works, how to set up our coding environment, and how to set up the React project. That was what we did on Tuesday.
Okay, cool. Cool. Thank you, Isaac. Today we're going to be looking at um this like React Render HTML. I remember the material we're using for this tutorial series is W3 Schools, so you can always check it out before the class to just have like a get going on it. So React Render HTML, React goals is in many ways to render HTML in the web page. React renders HTMLs to the web page by using a function called createRoutes and its method render. I know we looked at this last class, this create function last class where I showed you guys an example of the React, like the most minimalistic React project you can have. But let's just continue. Sha. So create root function. Just breaking down what we did last class. Let me show you guys. Let me check if it's here. Um. So feeling desktop. Let me show you. Yeah, so what we're doing now, this is the React application we created the last class with. That's create React app function. Sure. So what we're doing now is we're looking at this guy, like the function of this guy, like what this guy does and what this guy does in dealing with the rendering of HTML in React and like in our web page. So the create function takes one argument. I think I should just split the screen. Can you all see it clearly? Like, hope it's not too small.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So the create function takes one argument, an HTML element. You can see that it's getting the HTML elements by ID roots here. And the purpose of this function is to define the HTML elements where a React component should be displayed. That's just the main stuff. So if we go to like if you check out our React file, we're going to see something. Yeah, I think it's public. Yeah, we're going to see an HTML file, and you can see the HTML file as an ID, a div like a div here, and it's named root. So what's the purpose of that? Is just of the create root function is to tell us that this root is the root of our project, and any change or anything we want to put inside should be put inside this root. That is it basically. So yeah, let's continue. Then we have the render method. Ah, I should not bring it. Yeah, then we have the render method, and the render method is then called to define the React component that should be rendered, and that just it's like once you render this in React Street mode. So, but render where there is if another folder in the root directly of your React project named public, and we've looked into that. and this folder is an index.html page file. We've seen that. Let's talk about this folder and this file, and you notice a single div in the body of this file, and this is where your React application will be rendered. Yeah, that's just it basically. So that's just it basically. So what this is just telling us is render this React component or application inside that div. I can say we're getting the score, we're getting the element by ID, we're getting the div by ID. And please note, like depending on what you use to build React, may not take like this form, like this structure form. I think for Vite, this index.html is kind of like outside, like below here. Or let's just continue, sure. So the HTML code in this tutorial is going to use the JSX syntax, and JSX is just like HTML, but the difference in it and HTML that it allows you to write JavaScript inside your code and create your website using HTML tags. That is basically. So this is an example of JSX syntax. So you can see this is JavaScript elements. This is JavaScript elements, and we have inside this we have this is JavaScript function. Let's just call an element. This is an element, and inside this we have almost go a table inside of it. Yeah, and you can see the same stuff we did, but this time I'm rendering just elements. And yeah, that was it basically. So the root node, we looked at the root node, which is the root in our HTML documents and so on. Yeah. So let's take notes. We may see go by it again. Like this render here, we're just rendering the app and inside this React Street node. And this app, remember in the last class when I told you guys about importing and exporting, and I spoke about the type of imports and type of export, like when you're doing when you're using a default export and when you're using a named export or importing from a file that is using a default export or you're using a main export. So you can see that this one is using can someone tell me what type of imports this one is using, like what type of export the file by importing app from is using?
Sorry, I don't get your question.
Yeah, in last class, we looked at importing and exporting of files or methods from a file. Method, when
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
methods, I mean function, yeah, or variables. So we looked at named exports and default exports. So, and I
Yes,
showed
yes,
you,
yes.
I remember I showed you that if you want to import from a file using named export, there's a way you do it. And if you want to import from a file using default exports, there's a way you do it.
Okay, yes.
Sorry, I think your laptop went off before you got to that part. Last class.
Okay, anyhow, let me just explain it again. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, so let me split this in consumers. So there are two types of exports in React char. There's the named export and the default export. The default export is just what you see most of the times when you're creating your components, and that's what you just see when you see this export default up, and you can they'll not be down here. It can also be like this is just for readability. It can also be like somewhere. Yeah, sure. But for name export, and this happens most times when you're just exporting one stuff or you just have one default stuff that you want to export in case there's an error. But for named exports, it's like when you have like different variables. Let's see, we have const cons for one equals to one cons for two. Let's make some a function. return var1 and const var3 element on objects. Yeah, so var1 is assigned by. So for Moscow, for named export now, we want to export what we're just doing about by exporting like multiple files, multiple elements at the same time. So for this, for named exports, we just export like this. And for default exports, we do it like this. Then the question I was asking now, like for default exports, maybe want to import a default exports, you just import like this, like just do import app from the file. But when you want to import a named export, what you just do like import, then you can do var1 from app. So do you guys get now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Please, if you have any question, you can ask again. Let me this. Yeah. So JSX. So JSX stands for JavaScript XML, and JSX allows us to write HTML in React. JSX makes it easier to write and add HTML in React, and this was an example of JSX. So we're importing app from the app file. Let's go to the app file. This is an example of JSX. So this is the app file we're importing over there, and you can see that inside this file, inside this function is returning a div. It's returning a div which just look like plain HTML. It's actually JSX because you can see we are using JavaScript type of syntax in here. Maybe we can just impute a variable directly. Oh, let's continue. Coding JSX. JSX allows us to create elements in JavaScript and place them in the DOM without any create element or append child methods. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. Like, may I just using vanilla JavaScript and you create your scripts, or in your script file, you want to like manipulate elements in DOM. Maybe you want to create an element. Maybe when a user clicks a button, you want something to pop to add below, or an input field. Like you create an input field where user can type in data, like your regular to do app. Then you press on add, then you append the child below. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that, sure. So instead of doing that, you can just use this syntax and it just does the same thing. It manipulates what happens in DOM. And JSX converts HTML tags into React elements. You are not required to use GSX, but JSX makes it easier to write React applications. And for me, I've been using JSX since I started doing React. So yeah, sure. So there are two types of example. There are two examples. The first uses JSX syntax and the second does not. So let me expand this one so you guys can see it. So we can see that this is JSX syntax. Well, this one was not. Shit, sorry. This one is using the create React element method, and you have to specify the type of element you want to create. Then this, then what you want to put inside. So I think if you compare the two, you see that JSX is very simple and straightforward. And yeah, especially in JSX. With JSX, you can write expressions inside curly braces, like we saw over here. And the expressions can be real variable, like logo or property, or any valid JavaScript expressions. JSX executes the expression and return the results. So let's check out what this is also. So we can see over here. They just typed, okay, let me expand the screen. React is 5 plus 5 times better with JSX, and you can see React is 10 times better with JSX. So that just is basically that's how JSX renders expression. So inserting large blocks of HTML, and you can insert large blocks of HTML by doing this and just putting the HTML inside parentheses, brackets, called brackets. So just like this, and just going to render it the same way on HTML element is rendered. So if you like, let's continue. So one top level element, the HTML code must be wrapped in one top level element. So if you like to write two paragraphs, you must put them inside a parent element like a div element. Yeah, so what you just saying that like when you are creating a React component or element, like it must have one top level element. You can't have something like this. Like this going through an error. It must just be one. Then you can have multiple stuffs inside that one. And if you like you don't know what to put inside this one, it can always be an empty element. It can just be something like this. So, this one, yeah, alternatively, you can use a fragment to wrap multiple lines, as this should prevent unnecessary adding extra nodes to DOM. A fragment is just what to discuss that time, an empty HTML tag. So yeah, elements must be closed. JSX XML follows XML rules, and therefore HTML elements must be properly closed. Yeah, including the ones that don't have a closing tag. So source like image, you have to close them. Inputs, you have to close them, and so on. Sure. Or like your normal, HTML, where you can even like just do this, and you don't put a closing tag. You can just put P. You can put your element, and you don't need the closing tag. But in JSX, it's going through an error. So attributes class equals to class name. So in your normal HTML, when you want to use class, remember your class now. Instead of using class, when you want to use class in JSX or React, you use class name instead of using class. So that's what this is just saying. Once you why because class is already a keyword in JavaScript for class. So use class name instead in JSX. And conditions if statements. So since JSX you can write JavaScript inside it. React supports if statements, but not since in React you can write JavaScript inside it. Sorry, React supports if statement, but not inside JSX. To be able to use conditional statements in JSX, you should put the if statement outside of the JSX or use itinerary or expression instead. So there's something like this. Let's change this. Let's write something here. Let's see. React. Does it make sense? Okay. Let's see. Limon into MLSC. And let's just do const num equals to 3. So Yeah, we can either like for if statements, we can either like put this thing, the if statement outside there. That's it. We can just do like if, okay, let's just okay, this name, right? So if um no is even, name equals to name one, else name equals to name two. Or we can just use our ternary operator. So instead of putting all this here, we can just do do you guys know what ternary operator is? So I can just go through it quickly. Even know
Yes.
yeah, so ternary operator is just a short form of writing if and else statements. So let me just write this one. So I'm going to write this same stuff using ternary operator now. So your for React, you start it with an opening with a bracket, a curly braces to show that you want to input JavaScript inside. Then your condition, like the condition you get over here, you write it next. So num 2 equals to 0. Then your question mark, like asking a question. So what this is just saying, if num modulo 2 equals to 0, we're just checking if it's even or odd. Then what we want it to do, we want the variable to be hash to be equals to name one, else we want it to be equals to name two. That just is basically. So ternary operator just follows like this and this, like condition, then question mark, then if the condition is true, then after your colon, what should happen if the condition is false? That is basically. So do you understand now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So yes, so can someone tell me the answer to this guy over here? Okay, can you tell me the answer to this guy? Okay. Oh, what do you say? You can just type it in the chat. You can just type it in the chat. Or, or, or triple A, can you tell me the answers? Can you tell me the answers to this guy? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Well, what's the value
Okay,
of the
okay.
norm?
What do you say? What do you say?
I said I can't see your the VS code, the code. What's the value
No,
of the
I'm talking
norm?
about no, there's no value of norm. Like the answer to this question, to this exercise, that's what I'm asking.
It's the first one. The first one.
Yeah, correct. So when we're using when we want to yeah, you're correct. So when we want to use an when we want to use an yeah, so when we want to use an expression inside React, we just use this curly braces and then we put the expression inside. So yeah, correct. Um so let's go to components here. So components are like functions that return HTML elements. That's what they are basically. And components are independent and usable bits of codes. They serve the same purpose as JavaScript functions, but work in isolation and return HTML. Yeah. Um, components come in two types. There are two types of component basically. We have the class component and the functions component. In this tutorial, we are going to stick with function components, but most times I use class components. But anyhow, let's just use one function components for this tutorial. Sorry, I said class here. I use function components. So components is written like this, like you must include the extend React components when you're using class component. Like if you want to create a class car, then you have to include this extend React components, then create your components. But for function components, you just do it straight for like this, like function car. However, what I meant to say was I use arrow functions, but I made a mistake there. So my fault. So you can see here also is function components that is being used over here. Maybe we just create an app like function app, then we return an HTML underscore element with HTML div stuff inside shell. So that is the same thing over here. I'm rendering your components. So you can render our components by just calling the components inside the render elements, and that just it basically. But putting components inside another component that is visible. So you can see over here we have an app component, and yeah, we are rendering it the app components inside app over here. So if I like, sorry about that. If I okay, yeah. So if I start this React application on npm start, that's what we start React application. npm start. If I start this React application, mm, mm, mm. Okay, while that is running, once I start the React application, the content of app will be rendered inside there. If there's another component named um let's check, let's create a new well if there's another component named hello, sorry, anything mistake here, I'm not making mistake. Yeah, so if there's another component of function named hello, let me export it in the first way. You can just like put this, you can just put it in our DOM by just importing it. So import hello from the hello file and put in hello. So note all your components should start in capital letter. Like they should start in capital letter. That's how React differentiates them from HTML tags. So you can see this is what was there before, like React link on React, blah 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 blah. These are what we imputed there. Then this MLC, you can see because it's true, it's showing MLC, or because it's false, it's showing MLC. But now, if I should load it and start it again, yes, and it takes time to load. Yeah, if I reload and start again, you can see we have Hello World here now because I just added the Hello World components. So that's what makes React actually very special. Like you can divide so into components by components, and you can add and remove them by real. So we can also put components inside components, right? So that's just basically what it is, like putting a component inside another component. Like instead of putting the LO here now, because app is like the base components for your app, we can just put, let's try putting LO inside app. So we can either create the components inside the same created LO inside there, or we can create a component for LO itself and just impute it. So I just import it. So import LO from LO, and let's just put it let's put it before the image. So LO, and you can see hello world is showing here. So that's just it basically. So yeah, components in files. You looked at this one when you're creating a component and you can inside it's on special file. That's the same thing before hello, and yeah, that's it so far. So exercise: how can you render a component called house in React? Confidence, can you answer this question?
To be honest, I don't know.
Okay. Do you know what a component is?
Um, I don't know, but like I think it's one you said that always starts with capital letter. Ah, not sure.
Yeah, so remember when I spoke about single page applications um where you just load the web page once, then anything you want to change, you can change it like from the get go. You don't need to reload the web pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember? Yeah, and do you remember in the first class when I was like in React, like you divide stuff on your web page into blocks. And I said like this sidebar is its own block of its own. This exercise can be its own block. This header can be its own block. Do you remember?
Yes.
Yeah, so those blocks are just basically components.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just
Okay.
what components are. Yeah, so and the way we create components is, let me go back. There are two ways of creating components. You can either use the class components, that type of components. I mean, yeah, we can create a component using class components or function components. And I say that the class components, you just do class, like you create a class, then you extend the Rails components. But we hardly use that, so we're just going to be using function components. And in function components, you just create it like a function and return an HTML element in it. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah. So I now said after that, to make your component shoe in your HTML DOM or to add it to your HTML DOM or to see it
Oh,
in your website. Yeah, you have to render it, and that's what is being done here. They rendered it just using. Let's remove this stuff. So that's what is being done here. They just rendered it straight off, like the app components. So the app component is where like your whole React app is meant to be loaded from. Like anything you want to add in your React app, you should add it like in the app components. Like any other components you want to add, it should be like the root component of your React app most of the times. Sometimes you may have to touch this file, but most times you don't touch this file at all. So yeah, and you can look at props. No, I skipped though. Yeah, and I also talked about components and components. Like you can put a component inside another component. Do you understand that?
yes.
Yeah. So the part you heard was when I said like when you're creating a component, differentiate to tell React that this is a component and not an HTML tag. You use capital letter to start like
Oh,
capitalize it. Yeah. And you should have a closing tag like this.
oh.
Yeah.
So like my confusion, I thought like it was the first one, but I wasn't sure. My confusion was like was that as per me say HTML tags, it just looks weird. I mean that's like the way it looks weird. So like I don't know, that's why I
Oh,
wasn't sure. Yeah.
oh, oh, okay. Okay, please next time just speak out. I'll start over again
Ah,
if need
okay,
be.
I'll try.
Yeah.
So the answer
So
is
yeah, so the answer is what?
yeah, that third one.
Yeah, you're correct. Why?
I guess it's closed.
Yes, because it's closed and this one doesn't have the anchor, the
Uh,
brackets, this arrow brackets here, and this one is not closed. So that's why the third one is the answer. Yeah, so another thing we should look at is props. Yeah, so components can be passed as passive components as props. Components can be passed as props, which stands for properties, and props are like function arguments, like your arguments in a function. When you send them into your components as an attribute, as attributes, you will learn more about the what for these people say. Sure, components can be passed as props, sure, but I don't know. We hardly do that. But but there's a part for props, sure, so we'll learn more about props in the next part. So yeah. Um React class components. Yeah, before I start this, I wanted to ask, like, instead of having this class like twice a week, can we make it 3 times?
I'm in you.
Okay. Um, Isaac and Ovi, what about you?
Yeah, no problem. 3 times a week is okay.
Yeah, so we can just do 1 hour each because my laptop, I don't know what's going on. Like, there are no lights, so it just keeps on running real fast.
Oh.
So, so it's Tuesday, Saturday, and which other day will be okay for you guys?
Can we just like decide on the group too for like people that left the call or something?
Oh, okay. Okay, sure. So, yeah, I think we'll end here for today. We end in React components for today. So, next class, we'll look at React class props on events. React class props on events. Yeah. So, your assignment, I'm going to type it in the group again, but your assignment should just be to create a React app that's to create a React app and yes, log out your name over here. like instead of hello world, like create your name. That's what your assignment should just be. But I'll write it in the group again. So thank you for joining today. I'm so sorry about this battery, but anyhow, so thank you for joining today. Wishing you a
Thank
lovely
you.
day ahead. You're
You too.
welcome. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.